Hey, what's up guys? Matt Laidlaw here, coming to you from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson, LA area's oldest, largest, and finest Harley-Davidson dealership. So I had a lot of you guys request that I do a review and test ride on the 2017 Sportster 48. So let me take you through this bike here. So this is a 2017 Sportster 48. This is the vivid black. I'll be showing you guys all the colors on Harley-Davidson's website here in a little bit. So the 48 was first introduced in 2010, and it gets its name from the fuel tank here. So this is a 2.1 gallon peanut tank. In 1948, Harley-Davidson had a bike called an S125. And this tank was designed to replicate that peanut tank that came on the 1948 S125. And this is just another cool way that Harley-Davidson pays homage to its rich history of American motorcycles. So kind of a cool fun fact. The 72 is another bike that is kind of named after a number. The Sportster 72 is named after Highway 72, which is Whittier Boulevard, which is actually really close to our shop here. So that's actually kind of two big misconceptions about how these bikes get their names. So anyways, here's the new mag wheels that just came out last year in the 2016 model year. This bike has had the lace wheels on it since its inception in 2010 all the way up to the 2015 model year. So it has cast wheels now. You got the little headlamp up front. This has a beefy front tire. This front tire really adds to the ride quality. I'll go over more of that in my riding portion of this video. The front forks, guys, are 49mm forks. This was a big upgrade in the 2016 model year. They're up from 39 up to 49mm. Here's a shot of the rear shocks. These are Harley-Davidson's premium ride shock. These are a lot more comfortable than the shocks that were on here 15 and older. There's a couple discs there that you use a wrench that can be found underneath the seat, and you adjust those two discs according to your weight to give you the best ride quality for the load that's on the bike. You got kind of a side mount license plate there because of the bobbed fender. All the components, the strut covers, the turn signal housings are all blacked out. This is very much your bobber style bike. Got your solo seat on here. From the factory, this will only accommodate one rider. You can, however, purchase a different seat and passenger pegs and ride two up on this bike. That's actually a question I get asked quite a bit. Yes, you can ride two up on this bike, but you have to buy a seat and pegs for it. So all the wrinkled black casings and cylinders, heat fins are all blacked out. Again, this is part of Harley-Davidson's dark custom lineup. You got forward controls on this bike. So if you're below about 5'9", you either probably shouldn't get this bike or buy a mid-mount controls. Mid controls with labor installed and everything are going to run you about $700 or $800. You got the upside down mirrors here. This is kind of a nice factory custom look that gives it kind of the more of that bobber style to it. Not that it's hard to switch the mirrors right side up if you wanted to. Here's your brake calipers. They really increased the braking capacity, and they really upgraded these brakes. I believe it was either in the 2015 or 14 model year, but it's a 4-piston caliper, so the braking is much improved. During that model year as well, they introduced the availability to put ABS on Sportsters, so this bike does come with the option of putting ABS on it. That has to be done at the factory, so you have to buy the bike with that option on it. It's $795 to put the ABS on there. So here's kind of a side profile shot of the bike. You got that retro pan style air cleaner. Big beefy front wheel. Again, you got the big cast wheels there. You got the slotted heat shields on the sides there. You have a little bit of chrome in the heat shields and kind of the aluminum head on the rocker box covers there. The seat is not the most comfortable seat in the world. In fact, it's probably one of Harley-Davidson's least comfortable seats. It's kind of more geared towards the style and the look of the bike. It definitely looks great on the bike. That seat was recently, restylized as well in the 2016 model year. The graphics on the tank kind of pay homage to the 60s, 70s era, which I really like the styling a lot. Alright, so I'm going to start this sucker up for you guys. Here are the two keys here. So this bike does not have security on it. You can get it with security. It's $395. It adds an extra layer of security to it in the way of an electronic cutoff if the fob isn't within a close proximity of the bike. So I just click the key 2 clicks clockwise to the ignition. Got your neutral indicator there. You get your run switch here. If it runs on, you hit the starter button. So the engine in this sucker is Harley-Davidson's 1200 air-cooled Evolution engine. It is totally quintessential Harley-Davidson, guys, with the heart and soul mechanical feel of a Harley-Davidson. Let me demo the fork lock here. So, you got your ignition lock and you also your fork lock. So you're going to want to pull the key out of the ignition and then lock the fork to fully secure the motorcycle. So that's kind of me demoing it there. So the front wheel can't be turned to the right after the fork lock is all locked up. Pretty basic. So yeah, the engine, it has that iconic Harley-Davidson vibration to it. It's rubber mounted. If you're looking for the classic heart and soul and feel of Harley-Davidson, the Sportster family and the 48 will definitely give that to you. It's got that low end torque, potato sound. If you're looking between this and like a street, like the new street rod or the Street 500 7050, and you want kind of that Harley-Davidson look and feel and the characteristics and mannerisms of what people expect from a Harley, you're going to want to go towards the Evolution engine, like a 48, something like this. So here's me just cycling through the digital display here. You have a trip A, a trip B, a clock. You have your gear and RPM readout as well. Left turn signal indicator, high beam indicator on the dash, neutral indicator, and your right turn signal indicator. That oil lamp will go out when the bike is started. If the bike is running and that oil lamp is on, something's wrong with the oil pressure or the oil level or something. But when the bike is off and the ignition is on, that oil light will be illuminated. Alright, so let me jump onto Harley-Davidson's website here. This is a great resource, guys, if you want to know some of the details and specs on these bikes. So here's just kind of some really nice clean shots of the motorcycle that Harley-Davidson posted. Kind of gives some of the highlights of the model and the features. And I'm going to get into the colors here in one sec. So because I hardly ever have every color in any particular bike in stock, I'm going to consult the website here. So this is billet silver, and something I should point out, guys, only the tank changes color on this bike. The front and rear fender is always black. This is the hard candy black gold flake, and again, you just see that just the tank is the only thing that changes. The front and rear fender are always black here. So part of Harley-Davidson's hard candy paint process. So cool paint. This is the hard candy hot rod flake. So a really bright, heavy metal flake in red. This is the Corona yellow. kind of a bright, vibrant yellow. And this is the Crushed Ice Pearl. So pretty much white, and it's a gloss. You can also get this color on other bikes in the denim, which is like a flat, but on this bike it just comes in the Crushed White Pearl. Alright, so let me go into some comparisons with some other bikes and go into some of the specs. So we'll start with price here. So the 48 is $11,299. That's for a black one. And then the Iron 883 is $8,900. And then the Street Rod, the new Street Rod just came out, is $8,600 for a black one here. So let me kind of show you some of the other stats and compare these three models. So they've all got the optional security for $395 and the optional ABS. The Sportsters are $795 and the Street is $750 for the ABS option on there. Fuel capacity, you got a really small 2.1 gallon fuel tank with the 48. That's really kind of one of the drawbacks of this bike. It's really just an around the town bike. Even the Iron has a bigger tank at 3.3 and then the Street Rod at 3.5. So here's your weight, 551 pounds for the 48. Iron, coincidentally enough, weighs a little bit more at 562. And then the Street Rod weighs a little over 500 pounds. So yeah, this Sportster is about 50 pounds heavier than the Street Rod. The Street Rod is about 40 or 50 pounds heavier than just a regular Street for whatever reason. Torque, you got 70 foot-pounds of torque at 3,500 RPM. On the Iron 883, 53 foot-pounds of torque, and then 47 foot-pounds of torque on the Street Rod. So here are the engines. Again, this is an air-cooled Evolution engine that is found on all the Sportsters. And then on the Street, you've got the high-output Revolution X V-twin engine, which is like, it's a fully water-cooled engine. It's completely different than kind of your typical Harley-Davidson engine. Compression ratio is interesting, 10-1 on the 48, 9-1 on the 883, and 12-1 on the Revolution X engine, which makes sense. It's a water-cooled engine. Alright guys, so let's get out on the bike here. So the 48 is on the Sportster chassis and Sportster family. So the 48 is going to ride very similar to bikes like your Iron 883, the 1200 Custom, the 1200T. All the bikes are in the Sportster family. So it is one of the smaller, lighter frames, and so the smaller, lighter frame has its pros and cons. So the pros are it's definitely lighter. It's more conducive to someone who is starting off just riding. A lot of people will refer to the Sportsters as kind of the entry level motorcycle or a beginner's bike, and I would say it's good for a beginner within the Harley-Davidson world, but I don't think that the Sportster is only for beginners by any means. I think that the Sportster and the 48 are really good for people that just want to use the bike for local stuff. The Sportsters are definitely better for just getting through traffic. A lot of what I'm doing in this video, getting through cars and splitting lanes and stuff. But it's also a bike that's going to get better mileage. The engine on this, the Evolution engine, is unique to the Sportster family. The transmission and the crankcase are one solid piece as opposed to the big twin where it's two different cases, two different pieces. And the belt on the right side. This is kind of a little tidbit of information. All the big twin bikes have their belt on the left-hand side. But this bike only has a 2.1 gallon tank with that peanut tank, and so your range is very limited on this motorcycle. That's one of a couple reasons why this isn't a good distance bike. You're only going to get about 80 or 90 miles to the tank on this thing before you're going to want to fill up. So if you're trying to head to Vegas with the boys or whatever, you really got to plan your gas stops accordingly, which can be kind of a pain, especially if you're riding in a group. So for that reason, I definitely recommend this bike to people that are just going to be staying around town. But the bike is very fun. It's very nimble. It's easy to throw around in the turns. It was kind of a nice change because I'm used to riding touring bikes a lot. I've owned touring bikes, and I typically ride the touring bikes the most, and they are the bigger, heavier bikes. But just for like around town surface street riding, these bikes can be really fun. When I say these bikes, I mean Sportsters and the 48. So I mentioned earlier that the 48 has new beefed up forks as of the 2016 model year. These make a really, really big difference. If you guys are looking at 48s, maybe you're considering used ones. If you're considering between a 15 and a 16, just know that the 16 model year is significantly better. In the 2016 model year, that was kind of the year of the Sportster a little bit, where they upgraded a lot of the different suspension. So you have the rear suspension on this bike that's been upgraded as well with the adjustable premium ride emulsion chamber shocks, and then you have that beefed up front end as well. So the ride quality is significantly improved on the 48 in the 2016 and 17 model year. So yeah, the ride quality is really good as I was riding this thing around. The seat doesn't really do any help or doesn't benefit in any way to add to the suspension. The seat's probably the least comfortable seat that Harley makes. It's pretty much just there for style. You have this really small pad, and not that it's particularly uncomfortable, but yeah, it does nothing in the way of comfort for you. But the suspension does make up for that a little bit. However, if you're going down the freeway, you start hitting bigger potholes and things like that at high speeds, then this suspension even won't be able to keep up with it. The mirrors on this bike are flipped upside down underneath the handlebars. I think this is the only model Harley-Davidson makes where they do that. They flip the mirrors upside down like that. And if you don't like them like that, they can be flipped right side up very easily. But I like the style. It gives it, it's more in line with that bobber, greaser, chopped custom style, and I think it definitely adds to the look of the bike. So I like it. As far as functionality goes, it's not as good. The view angle and your visibility behind you isn't as good with the bars flipped upside down like that. But once you get used to it, you can kind of make it work. Sometimes I'd like to just shut up so you guys can hear the engine and see how it's going to react, and you can kind of see how the engine vibrates and with the rubber mounting and everything, and you can really hear it. I like to take as best the audio as I can so you guys can really hear what the engine sounds like. So the 48 is definitely what you would expect from your quintessential Harley-Davidson, where you have the look, the sound, and the feel of a very mechanical engine underneath you, which is what I really like about Harley-Davidson. The engines like the V-Rod engine and the Street engine, they're great, and they definitely have a more of a refined, smooth, balanced feel to them. But I've ridden pretty much everything out there, dirt bikes, sport bikes, adventure bikes, you name it, I've ridden it. And there's just something about just the classic feel of a Harley-Davidson that just brings a whole another level and dynamic to motorcycle riding. that I just really like. And so if you're looking for a Harley-Davidson for that Harley-Davidson experience that people, what really attaches and what people love about Harley, this bike will definitely give it to you. Also, the whole appeal of customizing your bike as well. This bike delivers 10 out of 10 stars. This bike can be customized a million different ways, and there's really an infinite amount of accessories available for these bikes, both genuine Harley-Davidson and aftermarket as well. These things, there's the sky's the limit as far as all the things that you can change on these things, and just the simplistic engineering about this bike makes it just a really cool enthusiast's bike. So if you're just getting into the Harley world and you want all aspects of what draws people to Harley-Davidson, this is a great bike to have. So that's kind of who I would recommend this bike for, is maybe a guy who's just getting into the Harley world. Maybe you have a budget that isn't more than about $10,000, and you want a bike that you're not necessarily going to go state to state on, but just kind of a local put around town. Maybe you're at college, maybe you have a local commute, whatever it may be. This is a great bike, and if you want to try your hand at customizing and really have a lot of options to make this bike your own, then this bike, and really all the Sportsters for that matter, are a great bike to choose. Now, if you're a guy who has maybe sport bike experience, maybe you're a seasoned rider and you like to get out on the highway and do more of a top end high speed and things like that, this probably wouldn't be the best bike for you. If you're a traveler type guy and you like to go long distances, then this bike is definitely not for you. With things I've already mentioned, the restriction of the fuel, this bike only has a 5-speed. All the big twin bikes like your Dynas, Softails, and touring bikes will have a 6-speed transmission, which up on the freeway, guys, that 6-speed makes a big difference. You're in 5th gear, you're winding this thing out. If you want to cruise at 70, 75, you're really winding that 5th gear out, and you're just running it at a higher RPM than what is comfortable. And so this bike will do it. Don't get me wrong. You can go across the country on a bike like this, no problem. But you're going to get a lot of wind. You can get a windshield for this bike, but you're going to get a lot of wind. The chassis is only about 500 pounds, and so 550 pounds, and so you're going to be more susceptible to winds blowing you around, and generally speaking, and I know I'm going to get criticized for saying this, but generally speaking, the heavier the bike is, the smoother it is out there on the highway. So, this isn't going to give you the best ride when you're out on the open road doing high speeds. There's my dad just rode by. Anyways, see, he was on a dual sport bike. So I know a lot of people think that I'm a Harley fanboy, and I definitely am, but me and my family, we ride everything. I look at Harley-Davidsons from a perspective of, comparatively speaking to, all bikes out there. But anyways, that's a whole different subject. I get a lot of criticism sometimes in the comments section about, people telling me what Harley can and can't do, but that's a whole different subject. Anyways, the forward controls on this bike, I really liked. If you're about 5'8" or taller, you can go to a forward control. If you're below about 5'8", you're probably going to want to either get the mid controls on this bike or just buy a bike with mid controls and skip the 48 altogether. Something I should have touched on probably earlier is this bike has a big fat front tire. This big fat front tire, I definitely prefer, guys. I love the thickness and the sidewall and the width of this tire. It soaks up the road like a sponge. You don't get that that feeling. If you guys have seen my wide glide video, I made a comment that with that narrow tire, it kind of wants to find the grooves in the rain grooves in the road. This fat front tire, soaks it up, and so it's a lot less susceptible to being influenced by small little road imperfections, and so I really like the fat front tire a lot. But anyways, looks like we ran out of running time here, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. As usual, I'm pretty good at getting back to people in the comment section. And if you're looking for a Sportster 48 in the Southern California area, you know where to find me. Thanks, guys.